If you're interested in an easy and delicious way to make your food more nutritionally dense, then you're going to want to tune in today. This is Wellness by Design. I'm your host, Jane Hogan, the Wellness Engineer, and my guest today is Chef James Barry. Now, James used to be a personal chef to celebrities like Tom Cruise, and he has a passion for making food healthy and delicious. Now he's the owner of a company called Pluck. They make this seasoning that is so nutritionally dense. It's a superfood. So tune in today. He's got some great suggestions on how to make cooking fun, even if you don't love to cook, and how to really enhance your eating experience. We talk about Pluck, and I think you're really going to be excited when you hear this. All right, we'll see you inside the episode. James Barry, welcome to Wellness by Design today. I'm really excited about you being here in this conversation we're going to have today.
Me too.
It's not very often. Well, I live in Newfoundland. There's only not 500,000 people on the whole island. We don't have like a ton of celebrities showing up here. But you were a cook for celebrities, which is really interesting to me. So, what kind of took you to that? What took you to being a cook, and then we can talk about what took you to that celebrity cooking, but also what you do today. And I know you're really passionate about ancestral eating and what they call snout to tail, right, type of eating, and being nutritionally dense, and just being mindful and loving the way we eat and how we eat. So let's start with your background with celebrity cooking.
Yeah, well, I was one of those kids that loved cooking from a very young age. Like I think I learned how to scramble an egg at 7 and I was hooked. But I didn't see it as a career. And I'm not fully sure why, but I think it's because back in the day, really cooking meant you had to own a restaurant, you had to work nights. There wasn't as many options as we have now. And my dad used to work late and I just didn't want to be gone late. There was something unattractive about that. So for a long time, I just put my passion for cooking aside. I did it as a hobby. And then life changed and I suddenly was like, what about that thing, that cooking thing? I used to love that. I think I should really like revisit that, and because I wanted everything in my life to have meaning. I wanted to really follow my heart and be doing that heart-centered mission-based work. And so that's when I audited my life. I was like, I re-identified cooking, decided to go to culinary school, but I still knew I did not want to cook at a restaurant. And that I knew I was living in at Los Angeles at the time. I had been pursuing the entertainment business as an actor and a writer. And so I knew I wanted to stay there. And I thought, I really do love helping people with their health and cooking. And so I was like, I think I want to mostly be a personal chef. And so I went to a
Hmm.
school in New York that was known for helping people to find personal chefs. So a lot of house managers and assistants would call the school looking for personal chefs. And it really did work. I went to this culinary school and I immediately, my first 2 years out, I mean, every job I got was through the school.
Amazing.
It was incredible. And so I booked many of those celebrities through that school. Even Tom Cruise was one of my celebrities. And I worked for him for 2 years and it was phenomenal. And I loved working with him. It was a challenging job. It was very hard. He's very busy and I had to do a lot. Like you just have to kind of be very prepared. So it's a really good training ground for how to be a good personal chef. But most of all, what cooking for him, more so than even the other celebrities, because I think I was with him pretty early on in my career, is it really taught me to just take ownership of like, oh, I know what I'm doing, to not have that kind of imposter syndrome that I think many of us have when we first start out. Working with him, I remember distinctly when I finally met him. I had been cooking for him for about 3 months, but I had never met him. They were just picking up the food, and then it was getting delivered to his meetings. And then when I finally met him, he celebrated me.
Oh,
And it was
sweet.
really wild. Like he just thanked me, and he so sincerely. And then he introduced me to this room full of the production team, and there were all these people I had heard of through the entertainment business, from directors to producers, and they all stood up and started clapping for me. And I was like, "Oh, this is a moment. Like this is
Wow, that is a
yeah,
moment,
this is like a
James.
full circle moment of like, okay, you've arrived as a chef, and you need to start taking ownership that you know what you're doing."
Wow. Incredible, incredible. And I get what you mean about the whole why you wanted to go personal chef route instead of the, restaurant chef, because it's a hard lifestyle, isn't it? That restaurant, being a
Yeah,
restaurant chef.
Anthony Bourdain put out his book, Kitchen
Love
Confidential,
that book.
long time ago. Yeah, great book, great read. But it's really shines a light that they're like pirates. Chefs and restaurants are like pirates. It's a very
Yeah.
hard life. You're on your feet all day. I mean, I've experienced it, so I very much can speak
Mhm.
to it. But I but I would not want to do it long term, because for me, it wasn't just about the cooking. I specifically wanted to help people with their health. So for me,
Yeah.
it's healthy cooking. And
Right.
that is right there. And I think you'll identify with this, is like, if you're helping people eat healthier, if you're helping people with their health, then you also have to look in the mirror and take care of your own health.
Right.
And that is precisely when you're working in a restaurant, you are doing the exact opposite. Your health is suffering while you're feeding the masses. But it's kind of, I would almost venture it's impossible to truly be healthy if you're stuck in the restaurant system, because it is so designed to not be healthy. And I kind of throw this back at you, because as a practitioner, I think you can attest to, in my 20 plus years of working with practitioners, of people who are trying to support other people with their health, the person in that relationship that's not getting help or being healthy is the practitioner. Like they're helping everyone else, but their own health is the one that's like not doing as great. So I was very much that as well. So I think we all carry that common kind of badge of like, yeah, it's hard work to be, your mission is helping other people, and then also taking care of your own health. It's hard.
Oh gosh, it's one I struggle with all the time. And even recently for me this year, getting this book out, it was a lot of work, and I was very busy during, and I know that I'm like, okay, I had this like spiritual experience that told me to leave my engineering career and become a health coach and do all this. And I'm like, okay, I don't think spirit was really saying that I had to beat myself out doing this. So yeah, finding that balance is really important, and being the role model for the people that we're trying to, be the role model for and help. So you're passionate about food and healthy food and helping people be healthy. So you're no longer, I'm assuming you're no longer a personal chef, because you have this other passion now. So let's talk a little bit about this new passion.
Yeah, it is funny. Last year I did do one personal chef job, and it had been a while, but I took it because it was really good pay, and it was also a really cool experience. I got flown to Paris, and I got to train someone's staff, and it was super fun. So, um, it was a great 8 days, and if the situation's right, I sometimes do say yes, but for the most part, yes, I'm fully 2 feet into, and this really came about from being a father. But as I had my first daughter, and then my second, it was all about, well, how do I support their health, but also make sure that I'm living long enough to be in their lives. And so it's really about then like, well, okay, what are the most nutrient dense foods and how do I get those into our diets regularly? And
Hmm.
so I identified organ meats, those that, mostly coming from a cow, but really any of those nutrient rich parts of the animal that sadly in the US and maybe even Canada, I would say, but definitely the US, people are not eating them. They're just not eating
No.
them. And I identified really three reasons why. They think they're gross.
Yep.
Even if they haven't tasted them, they think they're gross. They don't know how to cook them or they're intimidated on how to cook them. And then there's still issues, even though we have, Mr. Amazon, there's still issues of sourcing. People don't know where or how to get them. And so I ultimately that's what I set out to solve was how do I solve those three hurdles? And then I guess the fourth would be is and to get them into my kids' diets without any fuss. And I stress that
Without any
part
fuss.
because that goes back to, hey, we work hard enough. Like I do not want to work all day, then go to the kitchen to make food for my family and then have someone say, I don't want that or I'm not going to eat. It's just like I don't do that well. And this is coming from someone that was I was extremely picky eater growing up. And
Hmm.
I think if anything, it's like I don't want to have a mini me. It's like I want to make sure that my kids are not that picky. And so yeah, that's what I set out to do. And what I created is called Pluck. And it's basically what I did was I took the freeze-dried powdered organ meats that you already see in capsules, and we identified five that we thought were really important right now to get into people's diets, and that's liver, heart, kidney, spleen, and pancreas. And we're sourcing from 100% grass-fed New Zealand cows. So that's the sourcing. We made it into a seasoning because we didn't want you to be intimidated about how to cook them. So this is something you can sprinkle on anything, popcorn, to-go food, whatever you eat. If you can salt it, you can pluck it. And then you're getting those five organs in your diet every time you do. Now, you are getting micro dosing of those organ meats, but the whole point is if you're using it regularly, then it's microdosing plus frequent use equals cumulative effect. And
Hmm.
I think you'll appreciate this side of why I believe the microdosing of the organ meats is so important. Is because, and it's a very American concept, but that go big or go home kind of concept, or all
Yeah.
in, work hard, play hard. Like it's such an extreme perspective that America pushes around food and work ethic, right? And I say America, but a lot of other countries do this as well. But the human nature is not extreme. Like anything extreme, we don't sustain. Like we do it
So true.
briefly and then it falls off, right?
Hmm.
And so I really love microdosing our really nutrient dense foods. I love that in that small form because I believe that's how we make it lifestyle. And I've been in this business long enough to know like trends come and go. I have no interest in someone, just eating organ meats one time. It's like I truly want to help people with their health, and I know the things that you're going to make lifestyle are the ones that will really move your needle. And I use like brushing our teeth, for example, as a testimony of how, okay, if you had to brush your teeth for an hour each day to make it stick, we would have a lot of funky teeth out there because people brushing your teeth would fall off. But because it's only 2 minutes, a
Hmm.
couple times a day, it's very doable.
Hmm.
And even 2 minutes, some people struggle with. They go down to a minute. But you know what I mean? But between a minute and 2 minutes, people can do that.
Yeah. I say I basically teach habits, right? And I always say it's, the baby steps are what's more important than the giant leaps. And it's the little things that you do on a regular basis that matter way more than something you do once in a while. So I totally get that concept that you're talking about, James, of that microdosing, little bit here and there. You're getting those nutrients in a small way every day.
And what's exciting is we found it really does move people's needles. The comments we get, we're in our fifth year, and we've It's incredible. This one woman wrote to us, said, I was on my third child. The first two I had hemorrhaging and I had very little milk supply. I struggled. She said the only thing I did different for the third child was I learned about Pluck and I started using it from conception through having the child. And she said I had no issues with milk supply and I had no hemorrhaging.
Hmm.
And we get feedback from midwives where the mother has been eating or Pluck or organ meats in general, and we hear how the placentas look different. They look more healthy. They're more rich red color. We've heard skin issues going away. We've heard people sleeping better because their energy levels are better during the day, and hair loss support. So not losing your hair is supporting that. I mean, it's kind of incredible when I'm trying to think of another one. A father reached out and said his child has Crohn's, and Pluck has been the only thing that's worked.
You
So
know,
it's just incredible.
I think people are aware that organ meats are nutrient dense. I mean, do you have to do education around that, or do people generally know that?
Sadly, there's still education needed. It kind of shocks me. But you know what shocks me the most, Jane, is when people go like, they start to question like, yeah, but does it really work? And I'm like, huh? Like, it's not like this is a laboratory made food. Like we're not building something from nothing. We're just taking what Mother Nature already created, and we're just freeze drying it and powdering it. We're just putting it in a user friendly form. That's it. But it's
Mm-hmm.
still Mother Nature created. Like it's to me, I think that's hilarious that they're questioning organ meats over an Oreo. Like what? Like really?
That
Like
is
you'll go
kind of
buy those
crazy.
Oreos and eat those and not question what's in those,
Hmm.
but you're questioning organ meats? Like we're literally doing nothing to it. There's nothing compromised. It's not isolated. We're not pulling out certain things. We're not stripping it of anything. We're literally taking the organs, we're freeze drying them, powdering them.
Hmm.
It's as close to nature as you can find.
James, you mentioned that you source the organs from New Zealand beef. You're in the US, lots of beef there. Why go to New Zealand?
I know. I wish I could say it's US provided, but I have tried. I'm still trying. I will keep trying. So anyone listening know that I'm always working on it. But it's a supply chain issue. So in New Zealand, beef is their top three export. So their whole island, first of all, it gets green grass year round. So they can actually have pastured animals year round. Um, they also have set it up where they can basically harvest the entire animal. So when we talk about slaughtering our animals here in the US, a lot of people assume the entire animal is getting used. I know back in the 80s, it was like people were so shocked. They're like, the parts of the animal that were getting used in hot dogs, for example. There was all this shock and awe around, oh, it's the lips, it's this or that. It's like, yeah, but sadly, I was at a Wyoming slaughterhouse and I flat out asked them, I said, so what are you doing with the parts of the animal that most people aren't eating? You giving it to zoo animals? Is it going to agriculture? Like, where is it going? And they said, we actually throw it out. And I said, what? And they were like, yeah, it's about 50% of the animal, 49%. And they said, we don't have this slaughterhouse is not set up to upcycle it or whatever you want to call it. It's not set up to utilize it. And sadly, that's not an isolated slaughterhouse. Most of the slaughterhouses in the US are very antiquated and they're just not set up for it. Newer ones are starting to, but we have to, the age old saying of like you vote with your dollars is really true. Like if there's no clear path for a slaughter or for a supplier or manufacturer to make a profit from something, they don't go down that path. And so what you have is a lot of slaughterhouses. They have these plans, which is basically like a hazard plan. And it's identifying like, hey, if I sell this part of the animal, I can trace it, right? And they can trace it from kill all the way to the store. Well, most of these slaughterhouses are not set up for some of these organs. They don't have a HACCP plan for it. So you can get the meat, you can get some of the bones, you can get usually liver, sometimes heart, you can get tongue. But then you go further down, like the spleen, the pancreas, if you want the testes, if you want any of the ovaries or anything beyond, it's really challenging. So I spent about 8 months trying to find pancreas, for example. I found everything up to spleen, could not find pancreas. And it's just like, and like we have a brain product coming. Like you can't even get brain in the US. You can't. And yet New Zealand has it. And and they have never, ever had a mad cow disease outbreak. So they don't even, there's no concern of issues with their brain, whereas there is in Canada and in the US, there's issues.
Yeah, I mean, you that point that you made about year-round grass, so it's year-round grass-fed. Never really thought about that. That, over much of the U.S. I mean, Hawaii is probably different. I know they do raise cow beef there, but most of the U.S. it probably, even if they are trying to do grass-fed animals, how do they do it in the wintertime?
Well, so yeah, this is interesting. So a lot of people don't understand. First of all cows are grass-fed. All of them. They all start out grass-fed. It's what happens in the latter part of their life. That's the piece that we're really concerned with, which is, do they continue to be grass-fed once they've reached a certain age? Most do not. Most then go to get grain fed, or they get, and then it's a question of, okay, what else are they getting? Are they getting soy? Are they getting byproduct from other industry? What are they just getting antibiotics, which is used to help pump them up and make them heavier, or with more water
Generate
weights? Yeah,
more
generate more
money.
money, right? So
Yeah.
it's all based around how much money can you get off of this one animal. And fat is heavy, right? The fattier you can get your cows, which is what grain does, it makes it more marbled,
Hmm.
the more money they're going to get. Um, that so that's one piece of it, but the you're asking your question was just around the grass. I'm sorry, I lost the initial
Yeah,
question.
no, it was about like that grass-fed year-round is
Oh
what we
yes,
were
thank
talking
you,
about.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what they're doing the rest of the year is they're either getting no grass, so then you can't make the grass-fed claim. But if it does say grass-fed, 100% grass-fed, then what they're sometimes doing is dried grass, so it's dead grass, and they sometimes ferment it to help it make it more digestible. But it's not as digestible as the green grass, and then it's also not varied as much, because that's one thing. If you talk to a cattle or a rancher, they'll talk about how cows really gravitate towards the grasses, the wild grasses that they need. So if there's a sweeter grass out
Instinctively.
there, exactly, they follow their instincts. I mean, there's an archaeologist named Dr. Bill Schindler. He's a friend of mine, and he wrote a book called "Eat Like a Human," and he's got a great quote. But it's basically, we are the only species in the world that doesn't know what to eat, that looks to someone else to tell us what to eat. So if you think about it, a cow does know what to eat. You just got to
Yep.
allow them to roam and find, provide them a pasture that has the varieties of grass that they would chew from, but they'll find it. I mean, they can, they can feed off of land that most other animals couldn't,
Hmm.
or that we couldn't plant from. Like there can be some rocky terrain that they can actually utilize in ways that other animals or even humans could never populate. So they're really amazing animals. But the key is to put them in, healthy, humane environments and to feed them the food that they would normally eat.
Hmm. I mean, grass finished is often a term that we hear as well. Grass fed, grass finished. So, in other words, they aren't fattened up with the other stuff right at the end. Let's switch tracks a little bit because then you and I, before we hit record, we're talking about mindful eating, and you're making this Pluck product that is flavorful, and I would think it's like enhancing our eating experience. So let's talk a little bit about why mindful eating. Well, what do you mean by mindful eating, and why that's important to you?
Yeah, so I want to back up a little bit because one of the things that I really like talk about around just ancestral eating, because I think we have to think about the body we're in right now is Homo sapien,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a body that basically was developed over 100,000 years ago. It hasn't changed that much, and and so what we're thinking about here is it's not about that we have to eat exactly how that prehistoric person ate.
The paleo
Yeah,
diet.
right. It's not necessarily that's not necessarily my point, but think about how was this body designed to communicate what does it need and how much of it. And it was really built off of two concepts, which is this food going to nourish me or is this food going to kill me?
Mm-hmm.
But how did it get that communication? Well, it got it through the senses. It got it through taste. It got it through touch. Got it through eyesight, hearing even. You hear something fall in a forest that's going to direct you to it. Like, oh, wait, what is that? And you're going to hear sounds and all of these senses, your sense of taste, they're all communicating. We call that the neural lingual response. And that communication is what's sadly gotten very confused and kind of broken in our modern day
Yeah.
because we're being tricked. A lot of the flavors that you're finding in the grocery store are not true flavors. They're artificial or they're naturally enhanced flavors. And they're confusing our instincts. So ancestrally, if you had flavor out in nature, that equaled nutrition. Flavor equals nutrition. Well, skip ahead to our modern times, and you could eat something that says it has strawberry flavor, but it has zero strawberries. So your body is like, oh, flavor, nutrition, and then it never gets the nutrition, and so it doesn't know when to stop. It keeps eating, and and then your cravings get all weird because you're also not getting like truly balanced nutrition. You're getting either too much of one thing or too little of something else, and so it just you end up being extremely confused. And so
Yeah.
how I like to simplify it for people is I try to bring it back to, okay, if we were thinking about ancestral concepts, ancestral eating, there's really 3 points that I would want you to focus on. If I was creating like a food pyramid for ancestral eating, I would say the top of the pyramid is I want flavors that are found in nature. So not natural flavors, not artificial flavors. So if the food I'm eating has any added flavors, I don't care the source, just any added flavors, you want to move away from that. So I want foods that have flavor found in nature. Then in
Okay.
the middle of that pyramid, I want foods that are nutrient dense. Well, what are the nutrient dense foods? Those are going to be the single source foods. Those are going to be where they are an ingredient versus have ingredients. And
Mm-hmm.
then the bottom of that pyramid, and this is the grounding, this is the foundation of everything else, is mindfully eating. It's mindful eating. And what do we mean when we say that? Well, that is about choices you make, the choices you make at the grocery store to what you would allow into your kitchen, but even more importantly, what do you allow past your lips? That also means what state are you in while you're eating, while you're cooking, while you're shopping. These are all, it's just bringing basically like a consciousness to the choices you're making. And I think that's really what we're talking about when we say mindful anything is just bring awareness. How do I feel when I'm doing X? And that could be, like I said, when you're purchasing it, but that also could be, okay, now that I'm eating it, how am I feeling? And I always like to kind of welcome people this one simple step. Well, there's a couple of, I would say, here's 3 steps everyone can take right away after this podcast. So one would be meal plan. Meal plan allows
I
for
love it.
extreme mindfulness when you are shopping.
Yeah.
Because if you don't meal plan, then you go willy nilly and you're making emotional purchases based off of price or based off of where you're at emotionally.
Mm.
So
Yeah, and the other thing I always say with meal planning is you will make better decisions when you're sitting down and intentionally planning a meal rather than, what am I going to eat tonight? It's always a
totally.
better decision making process.
And we have such decision fatigue at the end of our days. And
Yeah.
so meal planning really just removes that issue. And you can also really build your meal plan off of your work week. Like I really recommend people open their calendars when they're meal planning and they look at like, okay, what does your day look on Wednesday? If you are in meetings all day, then that's a slow cooker day.
Yeah.
That's a day where you put the stuff in the morning, get it turned on, and then it's ready for you when you're done. Put the timer on and it's done.
I love it.
So really think about that. What
I had three very busy kids and they were swimmers and the swim time was mostly like 5 to 7 p.m. And so I started years ago doing meal planning because it was the only way I could really manage my family and manage the meals with everything that was going on. And it's just
Yeah,
something we've continued. I just find it so much easier to plan meals and not plan meals.
it really is. And it's going to be hard at first if you're someone who's never done it, but it gets easier and easier and it's
Mm-hmm.
quicker. You just grab your favorite Bon Appetit magazine or your favorite recipe book and just pick based off of a mix of your calendar and then also what looks appealing to your eyes. And what I love about it too is that, the things that we don't want, I guess the best way to word this is okay, we all have these desired outcomes, whether it's weight loss, whether it's longevity, whether it's to just feel good in our body, right? Well, the things that typically cause havoc or don't kind of support us in that outcome, that desired outcome, are also the things you would never put on your your ingredient list from a meal plan. Like it's the chips, it's the cookies, it's all these other things, but they're never in the recipe.
No.
They're never ever like you're making, teriyaki chicken. It doesn't say Oreos, it doesn't say Doritos, it doesn't say soda. You know what I mean? So these are all things that we just add on in the moment. And so meal planning really alleviates that. It's like just follow your list and
Hmm.
stick to it. And so then the next one I would add is in terms of just that is really going to help you be mindful is take a break, take a moment when you're about to eat, just whether it's to say a prayer, to say something grateful, to take a breath, anything that will let you just
Hmm.
pause and then
Love it.
settle. Anything
Yeah.
that will work extremely well in terms of getting you just in the seat, mindful of like what am I about to eat, and then get you in your body. Because
Yeah.
a lot of us are checking out when we're eating, and sometimes it's because we're eating foods that we know are not going to produce the desired outcome we want, but we're doing it and we're just checking out and we're going, and like I used to do this myself. I would go all day without eating and then I'd be so ravenous that I would just eat like all my comfort foods. And as I'm eating them, I'm watching TV and I'm totally like just trying to escape that day. And I notice I would always feel like really bloated afterwards. I'd have to undo my pants. And then
Mm.
because I ate too much. And then I also just didn't feel good. Like I knew while I was eating it, like this food isn't making me feel good, but I was ignoring that because I I was so past the point of being able to just be mindful because I had waited too long to eat.
Yep. And then you're not in that, the optimal digestion mode, right? So you're probably not even going to absorb whatever nutrients are in that food.
It's amazing. We've done experiments. I know other people have, but if you set your intention before, let's just say you're sensitive. Now, this is obviously not for someone who is celiac, but let's say you're just sensitive to something, whether it's gluten or whatever. If you actually set the intention before you go to eat and you like put yourself in that really relaxed state, positive, like this food is going to nourish me, not hurt me, you can actually leave a meal and not feel bloated and not have issue. We've tested it before and it really does work. So that kind of placebo effect of like, what is the state of your mind when you're doing something? What is the state of your heart? What is the state of your stress levels? That stuff really does work.
You know,
And
I
yet not taking the time to do it.
I just got back from Europe and we've gone every year the last 3 years because my daughter has been participated in a race over there. But whenever I go to Europe, I eat the gluten, I eat the pasta, I eat all the stuff over there that I don't eat here. Sometimes I think, is it the stuff that they're putting on the wheat that we get? Or is it that I'm on vacation and I'm more relaxed? And maybe a combination of both, right?
I have to think it's a combination just because I've been to restaurants here that are sourcing their flowers from Europe, that are
Okay.
sourcing things from there. And I'll still leave it going like, oh, I don't feel good. So I do think it's a mix of both that yes, they're different strands of the grain or whatever it is. There's strains of the grain there, and then they're also not spraying it with certain things that
Yeah.
we are here. But I also have to think it's because you're away from your home. You're in a state, a totally different relaxed state than you would be if you were in your normal life, potentially. I mean, I think that's usually the case. But
It all plays part. Our minds are so powerful, right? So I do
totally,
believe that setting that intention
totally.
makes a difference.
And just to close it out, because I said three things, I
Yep.
just want to also bring awareness to that. A lot of times people, because we need to eat, we think that we have to love to cook.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to, introduce the fact that it's okay to not enjoy cooking, but it's not okay to eat out all the time. And that's because when you eat out, you're outsourcing your health. You're assuming that where you're eating, they're mindful of your health, and they're not. They're just trying to make a profit. They could care less whether you go home bloated or not. So the only way to truly be healthy is for you to be in control of the ingredients and you to cook from home. But you don't have to love to cook. So what I offer is that if you are cooking from home and you don't love it, create an environment that you love. So put on your
Mm-hmm.
favorite music, put on your favorite podcast. Instead of following recipes that might be stressful, just follow a formula. You need protein, you need some fat, you need some kind of vegetable, maybe depending on your diet, but just pick that category and then follow your eyes. Like when you're at the grocery store, like, okay, I know I need a vegetable. What looks good? I
Mm-hmm.
know I need a protein. What looks good?
Mm.
And then have your basic three fats that you recycle through. Like for me, it's ghee, coconut oil, and probably tallow or lard, some animal-based product. But I cycle through those three and just have those. And then I also use olive oil, of course, but I don't usually use that for cooking. I'm more referring to cooking. But just have those cooking oils or fats, right there, ready for you all the time. And then you're just mostly focusing on vegetables and animal products.
I think that's really good advice, James, because I do happen to like cooking, but I don't love doing housework. But if I put on music that I love while I'm doing housework, it turns into a pleasurable experience. So I really love that input that you had there. All right, so that's some really great advice. And so I know we're going to talk about a discount code for the Pluck and Click in case people want to try it to get that little dose of organ meat. Because you know what? I love to cook, but I'm also a little like not so comfortable with cooking organ meat, to be honest, because I know my mother did a great job. She used to make liver and onions. I
Oh,
loved
nice.
it. She used to make steak and kidney pie. They were British. My parents are British. She used to make steak and kidney pie. I didn't love the steak as much, but the kidney, when I was little, I don't know why I called it plumpy meat. I loved plumpy meat.
You liked it. Oh, so that's funny. Yeah, a
I
lot of
did. And I was a
our
picky
mutual
eater on
friend
so many things.
JJ, our mutual friend JJ Virgin has a story about how she got tricked into eating steak and kidney pie, not knowing what kidney was and being grossed out from it. But like I also, when I lived in Britain, I didn't understand it either. I thought they were talking about kidney beans. And so I went
Oh,
to eat it and I'm like, this isn't taste right. So that's fascinating that you actually were okay with the taste because a lot of people
I loved
aren't.
the texture of it. I just really
Mm.
loved the texture. And I wasn't when I was little, I wasn't a fan of fat in meats,
Ah,
but it's not a fatty, I mean, it didn't seem
yeah.
like a fatty meat to me anyway when I was little. And so I really liked it. I loved the texture. I didn't really know what it was, but I used to call it plumpy meat and say, "Can I have some plumpy meat?"
I love it. That's so cool. Yeah, it's funny you say that because a lot of people don't realize that we are, as humans, we're very texture oriented. And if anything, I think we're chasing texture more than we are flavor. We confuse it because if you think about it, even when it's, let's just say chips, right? When you go to eat a bag of chips, you only taste the first 1 to 3 chips. The rest is all texture. It's all crunch.
Yeah.
You can't your taste buds get blown out because they're so extreme, the flavors of
Hmm.
them. And you literally don't like anyone can try, experiment with what I'm saying. You don't taste it afterwards. It's literally just the crunch. And a lot of times when we eat foods that are missing a crunch, if you are a crunch hound, then one of the ways to kind of make yourself feel more satiated when you eat any meal is just to make sure there's a crunch in it. So like salads, adding roasted almonds or something, just adding something that has a crunch will make you feel more satiated. Same thing if you're a creamy, people I find are usually crunchy or creamy. It's the two, just like they're usually salty or sweet. It's like they come in pairs. And so if you're someone that's creamy, a good way to make you feel satiated is to basically add something creamy. So let's just say, I don't know, like some goat cheese or something, to your salad or something, and you will literally feel more satiated. So it's kind of cool to go that route. The other thing too is I'll mention with Pluck. What's fascinating, so the organ meats in Pluck are umami. And so umami is our fifth taste. We have salty, sweet, bitter, sour, umami. And umami was discovered in like the 90s, early 90s in Japan. Well, what's fascinating is so those are all five of those are unique flavors. So meaning that you can taste them uniquely in anything they're added to. Well, umami brightens the other ones. So one of the comments we get, because you mentioned that you do like to cook, but of course there's some people that don't, right? Is that just by adding pluck, they get comments that people like their food more. And I'm like, yeah, that's the umami. So we literally get comments all the time of like, all I did differently tonight in this meal that I normally make for my family is I added pluck. I didn't tell them I added pluck, I just did it. Well, that
Hmm.
night, everyone kept complimenting me on the food and they wanted seconds. And it's like, yeah, that's the umami.
I
So
That's
it will
interesting.
literally
Yeah.
make you feel like you're a better chef than you are.
I don't know that I know umami. I don't know that I know the taste. So,
Umami is like savory, meaty. There's so many foods that have umami that you probably just didn't know. Like tomatoes have umami,
okay.
mushrooms have umami, but organ meats have a very high dose of umami. And if you ever buy like an umami seasoning, it's usually mushroom based. But wait
Okay.
till you try pluck though. Like when people out there try pluck, you'll see it's a different kind of umami, and it's such a unique flavor in a good way that I personally find that there are certain foods I cannot eat without pluck now because they taste so plain. So like
Mm.
eggs is one of them, and I would say popcorn is one of them. Like they pluck enhances both of those foods so much that I don't know, it doesn't taste as good without it. And I can't find any other seasoning that has the similar flavor that pluck brings.
Mm. Tell us about how else you use, like, is it just a topping? Is pluck just a topping, or do you use it as you're cooking, or both, or what ways do people
Yeah,
use it?
it's a great question. A lot of people ask us that all the time. So I'm a big fan of treating pluck as a finishing salt, and I that the reason for that is because heat is going to compromise anything. So
Hmm.
even the meat you cook, even the vegetables you cook, doesn't matter. Heat destroys vitamins. The only time that it's really we're in the culinary field, we're always concerned about and temperature and time. Basically, that's what's going to destroy the nutrients, and it's also what's going to make something potentially dangerous to eat, right? If you leave it out too long or whatever. Well, the only way to really enhance nutrients in food is to culture them, and that's a time and temperature thing as well. But for most of us, we're not eating cultured meat or anything like that. So we want to like try to limit how much exposure to heat it has. Well, then that kind of forces people to deal with, well, how well done or how raw do you eat something? And that's, of course, preference. But so for us, I want you to not heat up pluck too much because it's already freeze dried and powdered, which means has very little it hasn't been compromised very much. And so if you use it just after you've plated the food, you're going to get maximum nutrition. But
Okay.
the other thing you could do is if you're mixing it into something. So if you're actually mixing it into a sauce or ground meat, that's okay because then it's more protected. But I don't advise people just sprinkle it over steak and then grill their steak. And that goes for any seasoning, really. Because if you think about it, what happens when you barbecue or you saute that steak? What happens to the seasoning you put on top of it? It turns black,
Charred.
right? And that means you've basically burnt it. And a lot of like paprika, for example, any kind of peppers, they just get burnt really fast. And when you burn anything, it gets more bitter. And that's why a lot of seasonings have sugar in them because they're trying to offset. They're not only trying to get that caramelized, burnt sugar, basically taste, and texture, but they're also offsetting the bitterness that comes from the other parts of the seasoning that are compromised when you burn, when you grill or put them out on the outside of the meat.
They probably know that. They're like, okay, we got to do something about these cooks. We know what they're going to do. Let's add the sugar to it so it's going to taste good to them.
It is funny. Like every time my daughter tries something outside, she's like, I love this dressing. I'm like, well, look at their ingredients. I guarantee there's sugar in it. Like it is funny. Like the things that most people love, it's like where they put that emphasis. I really love that. It's usually because it has sugar in it.
Yep.
They just don't know it.
Yep. They were not looking at the ingredients. It's
And
so
so
eye-opening when you start looking at ingredients. You see
it's
something like ketchup, number one ingredient is sugar.
It's incredible, and it's in things people don't realize it. Like I'm telling people all the time, like even seasonings, you got to read the ingredients because there's like Lowry's all-purpose. It has dextrose, it has seed oils, it has things in it you wouldn't think. A lot of these popular seasonings, they've got the sugar in them. It's just like, yeah, you got to read. You got to read it every time.
I have this course. I used to teach it more in the beginning than I do now, but it was called Break Up with Sugar. But one of the things that I used to get people to do was, first of all, here's the many names of sugar because it's hidden in just the name as you talked about, like maltodextrin. I don't even remember.
Yeah,
'Cause they're not
maltodextrin.
yeah.
Yep.
And then start reading ingredient labels to understand how much sugar, and then take a picture. Like, what are the things in your pantry when you start reading the ingredient labels and that have sugar in them, and what surprised you the most, right? So it's green beans. Why is there sugar in green beans?
It's so absurd. And not to cause trouble with anyone listening, but I'll just say it because in case someone's curious. But so a lot of times when we're buying flavored products, whether it's electrolytes or you name it, protein powders, you name it, right? So they might say stevia, or they might have kind of a sweetener that you're like, oh, I'm okay with that. But if they have a flavor additive, right, even a natural flavor, most of those flavors have carriers. And so, and a lot of times it's dextrose, it's cornstarch, it's something that is very sweet. Anything
Yeah.
with an OSE is usually some kind of
Mhm.
sugar. And so if something is, and a lot of these things have a lot more flavor additives than you realize. Like if you think about a protein powder, it's not a little bit of flavor, it's a lot of flavor. And
Mhm.
so that means the carrier that they're using for these flavors, you got to also find out, well, what's in that? Because, and none of them have to list it either.
I
None
was
of
just
them.
going to say, because it's proprietary, right? They
Well,
can hide things in there.
exactly. So like it will say natural flavors, but you don't know what's in those natural flavors. And that's why at the top of the pyramid, find food that has flavor as it is in nature. Because when we buy these, like even for protein powders, like what I recommend is you get the unflavored protein powder, you get the
Hmm.
unflavored electrolyte, and then you flavor it. If you want it to have flavor, add some cinnamon.
Right.
Cinnamon is fine. It's, just sprinkle cinnamon. You can actually get just the vanilla, just the paste from the vanilla bean. You don't have to get it in that other form. You can get just cacao powder, chocolate
Right.
powder that doesn't have sugar in it.
That's a
And
great
then,
suggestion.
you know what I mean? There's ways that you can see you flavor things that you're in control of that flavor. But natural flavors, artificial flavor, they have things that people don't even know what's in it. And
Beaver
particularly if you're,
poop.
yeah,
Beaver.
right.
Is it
This
beaver poop or beaver gland?
beaver gland, beaver anal gland, anus gland. Yeah.
I know. I most people don't realize, but apparently very sweet tasting, right? So,
Yeah, they don't use it as much as they used to, but back in the day they used it, and I think they used it when they were from the pelting industry. So the industry, because obviously they weren't, breeding beavers just for their anal glands, but I think they were taking them from the other industry and then using it. But it is bizarre because it's like, well, how did they discover that? Like,
yeah, who's the first person that
who's the first person that
tasted
learned
it?
that? Yeah, doesn't
Kind of
make any
crazy.
sense.
So, all right. Do you have different flavors? Is Pluck one flavor?
We have 4 SKUs at the time of this recording. We might have more. Well, we have more later this year. Just depends on when this comes out. But we currently have Original, which is our first SKU, and that I would say is closest to like a Lowry's All-Purpose or like an Old Bay. And then we have Zesty Garlic and what's currently called Spicy Mild, but we're going to be changing that name to Southwest soon. But it's a really the Southwest or Spicy Mild. That's more like a barbecue sort of like it's got a very hint of spiciness to it,
Hmm.
but it's just a hint. It's very family friendly, but it's got a strong kind of smoky flavor. It's really good, but I would classify it like, yeah, Southwest seasoning. And then we have Zesty Garlic, which is kind of a ranchy flavor, and that one's cool because it has no nightshades and no seeds. So if anyone's sensitive to either of those,
Hmm.
like a nightshade would be a pepper or an
Yep.
it has no peppers. So that's a great one for if you're sensitive to that stuff. And then we have Pure, which is just 100% organ meat.
Hmm.
And that is for people that are on a special diet where they can't do any salts or that are like carnivore or something, like are not doing any seasonings. But it's also because we can't make a seasoning for everybody. I know there's some people that they can't do onion, they can't do garlic, and so we usually
Yeah.
use one of the two or both of those in our seasonings to offset the taste of the organ meats. But what's nice about having Pure is you can do two things with it. You can either make your own seasoning by adding it to the blend that you know you can eat. So you just add some of the Pure to it, and then you're getting the organ meats. You're making your own Pluck basically. But then the other cool thing is that you can go sweet or savory with it. You don't
Hmm.
have to just keep it in savory things. Like you could put it in your brownies, or you could put it in your coffee or your smoothie. You
It's a
can,
great idea.
increase the nutrients of whatever you want to add it to. And I would actually say a third bonus with Pure is that you can give it to your pets
Hmm.
because there's no salt and there's no herbs. You wouldn't give them seasonings, but you can give them the organ meats, and it will guarantee that they will. If you have a picky pet that's not eating their food, Pluck Pure will guarantee they will eat their food. Guaranteed.
I'll have to try that on Mr. Tibbs. He is a picky eater. He'll eat cat food, but he doesn't want anything else. But I'll have to see what he thinks
Yeah, it
of the
works.
pure.
Pluck Pure because the animals love these organs. If you find a wolf, or you find these predators in the wild, that's one of the first things they eat is they eat the part. They'll eat the organs. They'll eat the heart. They'll eat those parts of the animal. So they smell it. They go crazy for it.
I love it. Okay, we're going to have a link so that people can order it if they want to. And I know we've got a coupon code for people to save 15%. So we'll have all that. Check out the description so that you can get all that information and try it out for yourself and increase the nutritional density of your food. Is there anything we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to make sure we covered?
Just if anyone has any questions or just wants to learn more, our site is eatpluck.com. We have
Mhm.
recipes, we have a blog, we even have a podcast. And it's called Everyday Ancestral, and it's really about taking the best of the past and make sure we carry it into the future with us. So it's a really fun podcast about health and lifestyle and connecting the past to the present. And then we also are on socials at Eat Pluck, and I'm at Chef James Berry.
Okay, and we'll have all those links in the description. And before we finish up, I have one last question, and that is what would you suggest as the one thing someone could do today? And we talked about baby steps earlier, but the baby steps someone could do today that's going to shift their body into a healing state. What would you say, James, would be that one baby step?
Well, we've definitely mentioned some here, whether it's taking, I'll encapsulate the three I talked about: creating a positive environment, one that makes you, excited to cook for yourself, the meal planning, the taking a breath or saying a prayer before you start to eat. Those are all really effective. The one that really has moved my health needle the most is sleep. So
Mm,
for me, the one that I really only learned to do, I would say about a year ago, which is you go to bed at the same time and you wake up at the same time.
hmm
That regularity is what creates consistency around good sleep, because your body then knows, hey, this is when it goes to bed and this is when your body wakes up. And the human body is always looking for patterns. It's
Yep.
always looking for that regularity. So the more you can instill that regularity, the better you will find. You'll just find that you like, my body now wakes up at the same time every day. That I don't even
hmm
need an alarm.
Right.
And I get tired at the same time every night.
Yep. And you're talking about the whole week, right? It doesn't mean, oh, on the weekends I do something different. It's 7 days a
Exactly.
week. Our bodies crave that. I
On
love
that
that tip.
on that one note too, I will say, like, I have learned over the years, I am not one of those, weekday weekend differences, or I eat one cheat day. Like, I find that I do better when I treat every day the same in terms of those health marker, those kind of health priorities, that every day is a priority for my health. I like to tell people it's not about one day, it's about day one. And then you just consistently commit to taking care of yourself, because the outcome, we all already know what a cookie tastes like. So it's not like that cookie's going to suddenly one day go, oh, I've never tried that. It's like we already know what these foods do to us, particularly if we're at a certain age, right? We already know this stuff. So we just have to use our emotional intelligence to just kind of take ownership of, like, you know what? I know what that tastes like, and I know I don't feel good when I eat it. And my desired outcome is longevity. I want to feel good in my body. I want to feel good in my head. And I want to just be able to be around long enough to witness my children getting older. And so that now trumps everything else.
That pause, right? It just makes all the difference. And for a lot of people in my audience, when we're dealing with pain, what we put in, we want to put in the building blocks that are going to support healing, support our body's natural ability to heal. And so what you're talking about there, we'll do that. Pluck can help them do that as well. So thank you so much for sharing about Pluck today, but also all these other great insights that you've gotten over the years, James, and some great tips for people on how to enhance their cooking and eating experiences. So thanks so much for being a guest on Wellness by Design today.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you again soon. And to all the people watching and listening, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And, we all could do with more nutritionally and dense food. We hear about now people are overfed but have undernutrition. So let's change that. And so tell them about this. All right, we'll see you on Wellness by Design, the next episode.